Okay, yes, please. Can you please tell me about yourself?
Yeah, hi. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to introduce myself. So, my name is Paras and I am from Pune, Maharashtra, and I have completed my graduation in computer science engineering from Savitribai University, Pune, and I have around 3 years of professional experience in software development, mainly working on Java, Spring Boot, and microservices architecture. And currently I'm working at Cognizant as a software developer, and my recent project is in banking domain where we are involved in a data migration project. The primary objective is to migrate the data from Teradata to Snowflake, and we are also working on upgrading the Java version from Java 8 to 11 and Java 17. And also my main responsibilities include designing and developing backend services using Spring Boot, building RESTful APIs, integrating with different systems, and following best practices for the code quality using the JUnit and Mockito for unit testing. And I also have hands-on experience in working with the tools like Git, Jenkins, and Docker for version control and CI/CD development. And I am always interested in learning new technologies and improving my coding skills to contribute effectively to the team and for the organization. So yeah, so that's what is about myself.
Okay, okay. Can you explain how you have implemented Spring Cloud Gateway in microservices?
Yeah, so in our project, we have multiple microservices, and for routing all client requests, we use Spring Cloud Gateway. So that acts as a single entry point for all the APIs. So first we create a separate Spring Boot project for the gateway, and we register it with the service discovery. So mainly we are using Eureka server for that. We add Spring Cloud Gateway dependency in pom.xml, and we configure the routes in application.properties or YAML file, whatever we are using. Like we can give spring.cloud.gateway and then routes. Then we can give like .id or URL or predicates, that so those things or properties we can give. So that way gateway routes incoming request to the proper microservices using the load balancing. So mainly with Eureka, and we also apply security filters like authentication, authorization, and logging, rate limiting, and all that at API gateway. And additionally, Spring Cloud Gateway supports API composition, means we can aggregate responses from the multiple services. So that is a a very good feature for the microservice architecture. So yeah, so that is what is all about this Spring Cloud Gateway.
Okay, can you tell me the annotations you have used in Spring Boot while creating REST APIs?
Yeah, in Spring Boot, I have used several like annotations. So like we have add the rate of REST controller. So that is basically the combination of controller and response body. So that means all method in the class will return JSON or XML response directly, and we can also have only add controller. So mainly this one we use in case of MVC architecture. So when we return the views like JSP and all as or as a model view, suppose we are returning, then we use that. And then again we have like all get mapping, post mapping, put mapping, delete mapping. So these are there. So these are for the get, post, put, and delete HTTP methods. So these are handled using this. And then we also have the add request mapping. So that can be used on a class and method level to map HTTP request. And then again we have add path variable, add request param, add request body, add response entity. So all these are there. Yeah, so that basically like this we can use at the URL path and all. So yeah.
Okay, okay. Okay, what is the difference between REST API and SOAP API?
Yeah, actually, I have mostly worked on REST APIs only, but I know the basic differences. Like REST API are lightweight and that uses HTTP protocols. So it uses JSON or XML mostly, but like JSON is most common we are using nowadays, and REST APIs are stateless and easy to integrate. SOAP APIs are older and it's kind of more strict way of that, and they always use a kind of XML format and they follow strict as standards like the visual file, and SOAP is more secure by default but heavier in payload. So REST is more preferred in microservices because it is simple, scalable, and easy to maintain. So yeah, so in case of our development purpose in microservices, we use mostly REST. So yeah.
Okay, can you tell me one thing? Why do we use Spring Data JPA instead of JDBC?
Yeah, Spring Data JPA provides a very simple way of handling database operations basically. So with JDBC, we have to write lots of boilerplate code for CRUD operations. Like we have to write opening connections, preparing a statement, then handling exceptions and closing resources and all. But that is not required in case of JPA. So we just in this case we just extend the repository interface. For example, JPA repository or CRUD repository, we can just extend that, and that provides all basic CRUD methods like we have find by ID, save, delete, all that is provided by that. And custom queries can be written just by following the naming conventions. And also Spring Data JPA handles the entity management, lazy loading, pagination, and caching internally. So that makes the code much more cleaner and reducing the like development efforts and timing. So it helps in maintaining the code easily, following ORM principles using the Hibernate internally. So yeah, so that's why we use JPA instead of JDBC.
Okay, okay, good. Okay, what are the advantages and disadvantages of Spring Boot?
Yeah, there are many advantages. So advantages like Spring Boot simplifies everything by providing the auto configuration and like embedded servers like Tomcat, and we don't need to write the lots of XML configurations. Just some annotations and dependencies are enough. And also it provides production ready features like health checks, matrix using actuator, and also it is very easy to integrate with Spring Data JPA, Spring Security and Kafka and all. So and also it is very much useful for microservice architecture. So these are the advantages, and disadvantages we can say like Spring Boot can be heavy sometimes because of auto configurations. So whenever we have the like simple projects, so Spring Boot might feel like overloaded. So in case of small projects, we can go with the like basic way of implementation, not I mean without using Spring Boot. And also sometimes it loads unnecessary beans if we don't customize it properly. So these are the disadvantages, I would say. Yeah.
So, what is a bean in Spring Boot?
Yeah, bean means like simply a Java object that is managed by the Spring IOC container. So whenever we use like annotations like add component, add service, add repository, or add bean, so Spring will create the object for us and manage its life cycle. So like it handles initialization, dependency injection, and also the destruction of the beans. So all these things are done by the Spring Boot internally. So in simple words, in Spring Boot we don't need to use a new keyword to create the objects. So Spring will create and inject whenever required. So lots of internal configurations are like it happens automatically, so we don't have to care about them. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, okay. Okay, what is the difference between bean factory and application context?
Yeah, Bean Factory is the basic container which is mainly responsible for instantiating beans, and it is very lightweight and used rarely in real projects. And application context extends Bean Factory basically and provides more features like events publishing, like internationalization and AOP support. So all these can be used using application context. So mostly we use like this application context in all the real-time projects. So even like Spring Boot by default uses it. So Bean Factory is used only in memory sensitive lightweight application. So that is like very much less nowadays, if you will see. So mostly we use application context only. Yeah.
Okay, so what is IOC container?
Yeah, IOC stands for inversion of control. So that basically means we don't create objects manually, rather Spring takes care of it. And Spring IOC container creates, configures and manages the bean and resolves the dependencies automatically. So we don't have to do manually that this thing. So basically there are two types of IOC containers. So as I told you earlier, like that one is the bean factory and another one is the application context. And mostly we use application context. So yeah,
Okay, so when do we use at the rate of qualifier annotation?
we use a qualifier when there are multiple beans of the same type and we want to specify exactly which bean should be injected. So it works along with the at the rate of auto wired. So for example, if there are two implementations of the same interface, then we can give the name using at the rate of qualifier, and then whatever the bean name is there, that we can give inside the double quotes in brackets, and then that we can inject the specific bean we want. So yeah, so that's how we use at the rate of qualifier.
Okay, and what is the difference between bean and component?
Yeah, so bean is used I mean bean is used at the method level inside a class annotation with configuration. So basically it tells Spring to call the method and add the return value as a bean to the Spring context, and add component is used at the class level to mark it as a Spring managed bean. So add service, add repository and add controller are the specializations of add component only. And the main difference is like we can say add bean is method level and mostly for the kind of third party classes we can say, and add component is class level and mainly for user defined classes. So that's the difference between these two.
Okay, so what is the difference between at service and at the rate of repository?
Yeah, so add service is used to annotate classes where we write business logic. So basically it helps in separating the business layer from the controller layer, and add repository is used for the DO layer classes. Okay, so that deal with databases operations. So it also provides additional benefits like automatic exception translation, where Spring converts JPA specific exceptions into Spring's data access exception. So that's the difference between these two.
Okay, is there any way to inject dependencies without using at the rate of autowide?
Yeah, that we can use constructor injection. So instead of field injection using added of auto wide, we can use constructor injection where Spring automatically wires the dependencies if there is only one constructor. So like this approach is considered best practice because it makes the class immutable and it is easier to test. So that is how we can do it. Yeah.
Okay, what is the difference between CRUD repository and JPA repository?
Yeah, CRUD repository basically provides the basic CRUD operations like save and find by ID, delete by ID and all. And JPA repository extends CRUD repository and adds extra methods like find all and then pageable with find all we can use. And there are some different other methods are also there. So those are provided whenever we use the JPA repository. So in projects, mostly we prefer JPA repository because it gives more flexibility for paging, sorting, and there are other different kind of operations.
Which logging mechanism you use in is your Spring Boot?
Yeah, by default, Spring Boot uses logback as the logging framework. So in our project, we excluded a logback and we used log4j2 because of its advanced features. And for central logging in microservices, we use ELK stack like Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana for log visualization and Prometheus for monitoring. And also Grafana can also be used for the metrics and dashboards we can see. So yeah, so these are the tools we have used for the logging.
Okay, fine. Okay, so how would you call one service to another service in a microservices architecture?
Yeah, basically in microservice architecture, the services can communicate with each other using two main ways. Like one is the synchronous and another is asynchronous way of communication. And if we talk about the synchronous communication, then generally we use HTTP based REST APIs. When one service calls another service, then endpoint directly using the HTTP method like get, post, and all. So this is useful when we need the immediate response from the another service. But on the other hand, if we have asynchronous communication where services communicate via messaging queues, so they can be like either Kafka, RabbitQueue, or ActiveMQ. So this approach basically is helpful when we want decoupled services and we don't want to wait for the responses immediately. So based on the use cases, either HTTP REST APIs or message queues are used for inter-service communication in microservices. So yeah.
Okay, can you explain the microservices design patterns which you are aware of?
Yeah, I'm aware of like Saga. So that is mainly used to handle distributed transactions across the multiple services. And then another one I know is the eventual consistency pattern. So their data consistency is achieved gradually over time rather than the instantly. So especially this is especially useful in asynchronous system. And apart from these, I also have read about the patterns like API gateway pattern, so where we keep a single entry point for all services, and circuit breaker pattern is also there. So that is used to avoid cascading failures by stopping requests to a failing services temporarily. But mainly I have worked with Saga and eventual consistency in my projects.
So what is Saga?
Yeah, in Saga pattern, what happens is we basically break a long running transaction into multiple small transactions, and each microservices perform a small piece of transaction, and if it succeeds, it passes the control to the next service. So in case of any service fails, compensating transactions are triggered to roll back the previous changes and maintain consistency. So this helps in maintaining data consistency and avoids locking resources across services. So this mostly used in distributed environments where we don't have the traditional database transactions. So yeah, so that's what is the Saga pattern. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Okay, what are the features of Java 8, you know?
Yeah, like we have Lambda expression and method references, functional interfaces, default and static methods in interfaces, stream APIs, optional classes, and then parallel streams and datetime APIs. So yeah, these are the features are there.
Okay, so what is parallel stream?
Yeah, parallel stream is part of a stream API in Java 8. So that allows processing the collection of data in multiple threads internally, and it divides the stream into multiple substreams and processes them in a parallel. So that can increase the performance, especially for the large data sets. So suppose if we like we have the list of items and we don't want to process them in the sequence, so the sequence doesn't matter. So in that case we can go and use for the parallel stream.
Okay, can you tell me the terminal and non-terminal operations in the stream?
Yeah, there are like we have terminal operations like for each, then we have collect, reduce, count, then find any, find first. So yeah, so these are the terminal operations, and non-terminal operations are like map, filter, flat map, then sorted, limit, distinct, and then skip. So these are the non-terminal operations.
Okay, okay. Okay, can you tell me some predefined functional interfaces?
Yeah, like we have a predicate, then function, consumer, supplier, by function, by predicate. So yeah, so these are there.
Okay, so can you tell me why optional was introduced in Java 8?
Yeah, optional was introduced to avoid null pointer exception in Java application. So it's a container object which may or may not contain a value basically. So it provides the method like if like is present, if present or else. So that can help us to handle null values in a like much better and cleaner way. So yeah.
And what is method referencing?
Yeah, method referencing, we can say that is a shortcut or shorthand notation of Lambda expression. So it is used when we are calling an existing method and want to reference it directly. So that can be referred to static methods, instance method, or constructor using the double colon operator. So that way, like we can use it. So yeah, that's what is the method referencing.
Okay, and what is the difference between abstract class and interface?
Yeah, in interface before Java 8 only abstract method were allowed, but from Java 8 onwards default and static methods are also allowed. So in abstract class both abstract and concrete methods can be present. So we can also have constructors in abstract class but not in interfaces. And multiple inheritance is possible using the interfaces but not with abstract classes. So that's what is the difference between these two.
Okay, what is functional interface? Can you give any example?
Yeah, functional interface is an interface which contains exactly one abstract method, and it can have multiple default or static methods, but only one abstract methods it will have. Okay, so the main use of this is for the lambda expressions. So for example, runnable is a functional interface because it has only one run method. So similarly, comparator, callable, and then we have a function, predicate, supplier. So they are also functional interfaces. So we can identify them using the at the rate of functional interface annotation, so that we can give on top of the class and on top of the interface, and that way, that is how we identify that interface is a functional interface.
Okay, do you know anonymous classes?
Yeah, anonymous classes are like those classes which do not have a name, and they are used to create a one-time use class, mainly while implementing interfaces or abstract classes without creating a separate concrete class. So for example, we use anonymous class while creating a runnable instance for a thread. So they are very much useful for like a kind of quick implementation without much having the boilerplate codes. So that's what is the anonymous class.
Okay, okay. Okay, what is the difference between hash map and tree map?
Yeah, hash map is unordered, so that allows one null key and many null values, and it uses hash table implementation. And but the tree map basically that maintains the natural sorting order or custom comparator order. So it does not allow any null keys, and it uses red black tree internally for the, so basically it has the O of login, that time complexity it has. And yeah.
Okay, and what is the time complexity for the hash map?
Yeah, for hash map I think it is O of 1. Yeah.
Okay, when we prefer linked list over array list.
Yeah, so we generally prefer linked list over array list when our use case involves frequent insertion and deletion, especially at the beginning or the middle of the list. So this is because linked list is implemented as a doubly linked list, and so adding or removing elements doesn't require shifting elements like in array list, and the time complexity for insertion and deletion uh, is like O of 1. And if we already have the reference to the node, so on the other hand, array list is backed by the dynamic array, so it is better suited for the scenarios where we have the more read and retrieval operations. Okay, but for the insertion and deletion, especially in the middle, array list can have O of n time complexity because elements need to be shifted. So in very short, like if our use case is searching and frequent reading, then we can go for array list. And if our use case is frequent insertion and deletion in the middle or a start, then we can go for the linked list. Yeah.
Okay, so how do we preserve the insertion order in a set?
Insertion order. Yeah, if we want to preserve the insertion order while using a set in Java, then we use linked hash set. So the main advantage of linked hash set over the hash set is that it maintains a doubly linked list internally. So that keeps the track of the sequence in which the elements were inserted. So when we iterate over the linked hash set, so elements will come out in the exact order in which they were added in the set. So this is not possible with a hash set, because hash set does not guarantee any order and element can come in random order. So yeah, so linked hash set, when insertion order matters, then we use a linked hash set.
Okay, so what is hash collision?
Yeah, hash collision occurs when two different key produce the same hash code and end up in the same bucket inside the hash based data structure like hash map or hash set. So even though the hash codes are the same, so Java uses the equals method to check if the key are actually equal or not. Case of collision, entries are stored in a linked list within that bucket, but starting from Java 8, if the number of entries in a single bucket exceeds the certain threshold, like kind of 8, then the linked list is automatically converted into balanced binary tree. That is basically red black tree. So that improves the lookup performance from O of n to the O of log n. So that is in worst case. So yeah, so basically collision happens when hash codes are same for different keys. So that's what is the collision.
Okay. Okay. How many types of joins are there in SQL?
Yeah, so actually there are many, but mainly there are of four types. So one is inner join, left join, right join, then full join. So yeah.
Okay. And what is the difference between union and union all?
Yeah, so union combines the result set of two or more select queries and removes the duplicate rows. So the final result contains only the unique records. Union all, like on the other hand, combines the result set, but that includes all records, even if there are duplicates. So yeah, so that's the difference between these two.
Okay. But what is the scenario when I should go for union and when I should go for union all?
Yeah, so union, like we can go whenever we need unique results, and union all when we want all records, including duplicates, and we prefer the better performance. So in that case, we can go for the union all.
Okay, can you tell me what are the database optimization techniques?
Yeah, so there can be various ways, like how we can improve the database and we can optimize it. So for select heavy tables, for read operations, we can use the indexes. Okay, so when we fetch only required columns instead of using the select star, so we can fetch only required columns. And then we implement pagination, like we can do the limit or offset whenever we have a huge table. And then in case of insert or update is there, so if I mean if it is insert, update and delete heavy tables, then we can limit the number of indexes, because each write operation needs to update all the related indexes. So that is what we can do, and also we can use the batch operations for bulk insert or updates. Okay, so that is what. And again, apart from that, we can use stored procedures and functions to pre-compile complex logic inside the databases. So that basically improves the execution speed and consistency. And also we can avoid subqueries wherever possible, or replacing them with joins or like common table expressions. So that can be used for the better performance. And also we can apply proper normalization to reduce the redundancy. And suppose we are using various types of various joins, like 10-15 joins are there. So instead of always querying that, we can do the batch, like batch job we can run, and that will be always inserting to data to some different table, and from there we will be reading the data. So it won't be the real time, but like after separate like some interval, we can always be running the batch and we will be getting data. So these are the things we can follow. Yeah.
Okay, okay.